Welcome back to the Gen 20 podcast. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Marina. Today we're speaking with Rosie McCarthy, career fulfillment coach and founder of Badass Careers. Rosie's mission is to help millennials and Gen Z make dream careers their badass reality and help them feel happy and fulfilled in what they do. Rosie, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. And I have to admit, I have a little bit of imposter syndrome being 31, but here we are.
I'm 31 too.
Yeah, I'm 30, so.
Amazing. We've lived through our 20s and we've learned.
Exactly. We've made it through the other side.
All right, so today we're chatting with Rosie about online presence and specifically how to make your LinkedIn work for you and have recruiters knocking on your digital door. We all know that the job market is changing again. So Rosie, how can job seekers really put their best foot forward online?
Yeah, and this is so important, isn't it? Because we know about the job market is that there are so many opportunities out there that are being filled sort of directly, as in through networks, through internal referrals, or through recruiters going out and proactively searching for talent on LinkedIn. And so if you don't have a strong personal brand online and you can't be found, then you may be having opportunities slip through the net. And so there's many different ways that you can show up online. And I do encourage all of the listeners out there to Google yourself and see what comes up, because you may be surprised at those, Facebook pictures from 2008. So definitely go and give yourself a Google. But I'd really love to focus on LinkedIn, because I think that's a platform that people have so much untapped potential on, and they're really not necessarily leveraging. In terms of putting and I think we can all put our hands up and say at some time we've been direly ashamed of our LinkedIn profiles. like just pretending it doesn't exist, right? Head in the sand. And so I would say, the first thing to do is just really make sure that your LinkedIn is looking really sleek and sharp and a really great representation of you, because the fact of the matter is that it is the world's online professional directory. You have over 700 million monthly users. If you think about how many of those are senior level managers, decision makers, people working at your dream company that you could connect with, and recruiters, it's really a shame if you're not leveraging LinkedIn. It's really like being in the corner of the best professional networking party ever and just deciding to not say a thing, right? And so it's really important to focus on your profile, give it a little bit of love, and also realize that it's not just there to be a static tool. It's not just set and forget. It's also a place to show up. It's social media, right? So get social, and it's a place to build quality connections and to find that mentor and to tap into the hidden job market and to showcase your personal brand. So I would really start there and giving your LinkedIn profile a little bit of love.
And now a word from our sponsors. Do you hate your job? Do you feel like everyone around you has their career together and you're stuck in another soul-sucking job for what feels like 100th time? Are you asking yourself why it's so hard to find work that makes you happy? I want to tell you about my friend Serena and her program, Get Me Out of This Job. She's a career coach, and her program, Get Me Out of This Job, helps you find confidence and clarity in the next steps of your career. Serena helps you build a career around your life instead of you feeling like you have to build your life around your career. And I did her program, and it was life-changing. Before I worked with her, I worked 9-to-5 jobs and just was so miserable. I couldn't figure out why I was so unhappy. I went from job to job. And then after I worked with her, I became an entrepreneur, a writer, an author, a podcaster, and just gave me so much clarity, life-changing. So the best part is mention Gen20 and you get 10% off your coaching package. Head to getmeoutofthisjob.co to learn more, or follow her on Instagram at getmeoutofthisjob. Yeah, and I think a lot of times young professionals don't realize what type of tool it can be, because now, especially with social media changing, LinkedIn has, one, you put your resume up there, but you can, Vincent, help me out here, deeper connections with people who have similar career paths to you. And also you can kind of establish yourself as a key leader in your role as you grow, because you can post articles and you can really connect your social media to LinkedIn with your website and things like that. So, Rosie, when you are helping people build their LinkedIn page and their brand, what are some like don'ts that you would recommend people stop doing?
Yeah, and I've got quite a few. But as you just touched on, the main ways you're using LinkedIn to your advantage. One, you want to have a search optimized profile. So you want to have a profile that's optimized so that when recruiters are looking for incredible opportunities, your profile is going to show up in the search results. So we've got to think about the words you're using. We've got to think about how you're portraying yourself and all of that kind of stuff. And then, once they land on your profile, you want it to be intriguing. You want it to hook them in and draw them in. And you've also got the opportunity to show up on LinkedIn, to comment on people's things, to share your perspective, to share that article, to write that article. And there are so many ways that decision makers and recruiters can be finding you. So I think, it's just really, really exciting and a really cool place to be. In terms of the no-nos that I see over and over again, I mean, firstly, obviously, is not having a complete profile.
Mm-hmm.
Your profile looking a little bit empty, no effort put in. And, I want to ask the listeners, if how you show up on LinkedIn is how you show up in your career, what would you say about yourself? Is
Ooh.
that an accurate reflection of how you show up? Because if I'm looking for a role, or if you've applied for a role, right? If you've actively applied for a role and I'm a recruiter and I give you a stalk, because I will, and I land on your LinkedIn, what does it tell me about you? Does it show that you're putting in the effort? Does it show that you're well connected? Does it show that you're collaborative and that you're part of your industry and you're part of that conversation? Or does it all look a little bit sad? And LinkedIn does offer you free personal branding in that way. It has very high search engine authority, which means that if you Google your name, your LinkedIn profile is likely to show up at the top of the search results, because Google loves it. And so, you have, just like people pay for ads to come up at the top of Google search, that's what you get with your LinkedIn. And so, you've got that opportunity to really shine if recruiters are giving you a stalk. So, that's the first thing, is just not having a presence and a personal brand infused presence that you're proud of. And what I mean by that is, does it tell your story? Does it show off your strengths? Does it show off your values? Does it articulate your why? So that's the first thing. The second thing is not working on what I call your clickbait and your follow through. So if you think about, if you're on YouTube, right, and you're looking at a video, like scrolling through and looking at some videos to watch, you've got the thumbnail, and you've got the channel name, and you've got the title of the video. All of these
Mm-hmm.
things work together to think, okay, am I going to give that a click? Is this worth my time? Does this pique my interest? And that's exactly the same on LinkedIn. So you've got your clickbait is your photo, your name, and your headline. Um, so just to break those down a little bit and give you some concrete tips. So obviously for your photo, what's really nice, it doesn't have to be professionally taken, but it's, a nice clear photo, you're making eye contact, and it represents you professionally. You're wearing what you'd wear, you're just feeling comfortable and good in your photo. But something that you can do, just a small hack that can actually make it really pop, is remove the background of your photo, for example, at a website like remove.bg, and then upload it to a free site like Canva. So that's canva.com. And you can have a play with that. Just choose the Instagram post template in terms of sizing, and change the
Mm-hmm.
background color and make it pop, and make your
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn profile look that much more, spicy.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to your name, I mean, you might be saying, okay, my name's my name, but there are things that you can do with that, to mix it up. So, for example, what I do is I put my full name in my first name box. So the first name says Rosie McCarthy, and then in my surname box, I've put career fulfillment coach, because it's all search optimized. So you could put your job title in there, or aspiring digital marketer, or whatever that looks like. You could put MBA, for example, in your surname field. You can mix it up so that you can use those characters to pop a little bit more. And then when it comes to your
Mm-hmm.
headline, um, So as a recruiter, this is what I see, right? Like, so I'd go onto LinkedIn and I'll type in social media manager. And as I scroll through the results, every single headline, that's the area just below your name, says the
Mm.
same thing, which is social media at company, social media manager at company, because that's the LinkedIn default. Now, how would I feel if I came across someone who said, social media manager, I show startups how to manage their social media presence and build communities of raving fans? They've just gone that extra
Mm.
mile in that headline and told
Mhm.
me, what you're passionate about, how you can help. And instantly I'm like, who is this person? So,
Mhm.
yeah, so that clickbait area is really important. Again, that's your photo, your headline, and your name as well. So
Mhm.
that, but then, it's not just about the clickbait. You've got to have the follow through, right?
Yeah.
So a big mistake I see is people not using a banner on LinkedIn. So this is like you've clicked through to the person's profile and what are you greeted with? And if you've just got the gray default LinkedIn area for the banner and you're not making the most of that, again, that's a real shame. So, your banner can show off a photo of you at work, maybe a speaking event, maybe, you filming if you work on production site, whatever that looks like. But, it can be you in your zone. It could be actually created. So it could be a like little graphic design template. And again, you don't have to be a graphic designer. That website Canva has LinkedIn headline templates, like heaps and heaps
Mhm.
of them for you to choose from. And you could put your why on there. For example, you could have a banner saying, on a mission to drive social and community change through advocacy and social innovation, or building a happier and healthier workforce, or finding stories in the data, and then have your zones of genius, data visualization, infographics, visual journalism. There's so many things that you can play with for that banner. And then lastly, I would say, obviously the about section. So the about section just should tell a story. It should show off your why. It should highlight some of your career highlights. It should, give us a taster of who you are, what you're good at, and what you want next. And there's so many ways that you can tell a story with that as well.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Alex Colkett is a Duke certified holistic wellness coach that works with burnt out young professionals who struggle to prioritize themselves, create boundaries, and develop sustainable habits around self care so that they can show up to be their best self. Her one on one signature program called the Empowerment Lab is a 12-week journey that helps you reprioritize yourself, develop a personalized wellness strategy that is unique to your ideal lifestyle, and implement long term lifestyle changes that minimize stress and maximize your quality of life, happiness, and confidence. Follow her on Instagram to learn more at alex.colkit. That's alex.colkitt. And if you're ready to take charge of your well being and create lasting positive change, head to the link in her bio because applications for the Empowerment Lab are now open. I'm already like trying to pull up my LinkedIn page just to see what mine says. This is so helpful. And I think, LinkedIn's been around for a while and I graduated from college 10 years ago.
Mm.
Let's not say 10 years. It was probably 8. I don't want to do that math. But I remember that was when LinkedIn was really starting to be encouraged and my
Mm.
career center was like, you just need to put your skills on there and you're good to go. And that was, I'm sure, great advice at the time.
Mm.
But there's like standing out is getting harder and harder. So I think this is great advice because like my name, Marina Kraus, it's like I would say that's pretty unique. I'm actually not the only Marina Kraus. When you Google my name, the other Marina Kraus pops up. She's a jazz singer in San Francisco. I've actually talked with her on Facebook. She's very nice, but we are constantly in each other's like SEO space because we're both very active online. And so I think these are great tools for how to set yourself apart because there are a ton of people in the world. There are going to be people who are doing similar things. But if you know what you want to do and how you want to do it, that's really important. Um, One thing I want to touch more on too is like LinkedIn used to be more static, where it was just a website for resumes. And now people are having conversations
Mm.
on LinkedIn with articles and posts and all these things. So what recommendations do you have, Rosie, for people who want to make more meaningful connections on LinkedIn
Mm.
and maybe even being part of a conversation? Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing is that the LinkedIn algorithm is very generous in this space, and what that means is that if you, it's sort of like old school Facebook. Still, it's sort of like if you comment on someone else's post and leave a really enriching and thoughtful perspective on their post, not only are they going to see it and be notified of that, but their network is going to see that you've commented on their post. And what that means is that, there's such huge opportunity on LinkedIn to be seen and to get eyeballs on your profile. In fact, there are over 9 billion impressions of content on the LinkedIn newsfeed per week, but only 3 million people are consistently creating content. So less than 1% of LinkedIn users create content regularly. And so again, a huge opportunity to be seen. Now, that can feel quite daunting and overwhelming for people. Obviously we start, picking ourselves apart and saying things like, oh, what would I have to say? And, how could I possibly share anything of interest? But it's literally about sharing what's going on for you in life. I think if you can start small, I would start by the commenting thing, just as I was speaking about, like reading other people's content or other people's conversation starters and posts or articles, and leaving engaging content and comments in the comment section that's just offers it something a little bit different, offers your perspective, not just great job or fun article, but really something of value, and give your opinion. So that's a great way to start. I think, you can also graduate to then sharing other people's stuff, other articles and posts, and again, on your own feed, offering your perspective to your connections and so on and so forth. But then obviously as you go up, and you feel more and more comfortable, you can start posting on your feed yourself with posts. LinkedIn now, you can add carousels, you can add video, you can write articles, all sorts of things. I would recommend practicing, starting with posts. The more you do it, the easier it gets and the better you get at telling a little bit of a story. And you can share anything from your personal story, a book you've read, a training you've attended. Share the key learnings with us. Have you just completed a course recently? What did you learn? Can you take us behind the scenes at your job? Can you share a story about how one of your biggest passions relates, has given you big life lessons for your work? Anything like that is going to be really interesting to people, let alone adding your perspective on your industry. For example, if you're working in clean beauty, and you're originally from Hawaii, maybe you'll want to pen an article on the top 5 Hawaiian clean beauty brands to follow at the moment. So there are so many things that you can do, that you've got to remember, your interests, your experience, your passions are all unique, and people can learn something from you and you can add value. And just to give you a concrete example, when I was working for L'Oreal over in Paris, I had this amazing project, which was developing really a world first mobile application on company culture. So I developed a mobile app that allowed newcomers to navigate the company culture. So we gamified that onboarding experience, and we really got people connected and just up to speed within the L'Oreal world. And of course, I asked permission, but to the comms team, but I ended up writing an article about it on LinkedIn. It was my first article that I'd ever written, and it really took off, and it had over 28,000 views, and I was getting contacted by recruiters. I was getting offered paid speaking events to come to conferences, and I actually ended up taking my manager to London for an incredible HR digital summit. It was just insane, and I was like, wow, from one article, the attention and the eyeballs I had on my profile was crazy. And then I've got a client of mine the other day. She was posting on LinkedIn regularly. She's in the tourism industry, which, as you know, obviously right now, it's a really
Mm-hmm.
tough industry to be in. But she was showing up and posting and sharing her passion for tourism and her dreams for the future of the industry. And she actually got an inbox message on LinkedIn from the CEO of a tourism company here in New Zealand. And he said, hey, we've been seeing how passionate you are. We've been seeing your post on LinkedIn for the past 6 months, and we haven't been in a position to be able to hire you, but we would love to meet you. And if it's a fit, we're not even opening this up to interviews. Like, we want you on our team. And so it's pretty insane what can happen when you put yourself out there. And the last example I just wanted to touch on, especially for those of you listening who don't have necessarily professional experience yet, there's someone I follow on LinkedIn called Basant Shanuda. And Basant, she's incredible. She was a student, she was an immigrant student in the US, and she was just posting about her experience with visas, with trying to land a job when you need sponsorship, with mental health struggles. Hey, I tweaked my resume, here's some tips, and so on and so forth. And she was just really sharing her experience of what that looked like trying to get that graduate role after studying. And she actually ended up accumulating over 50,000 followers on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn ended up offering her a role. So she landed an
Wow.
amazing graduate role at LinkedIn. And on the side now, because of her strong personal brand, she's a paid speaker, she's a career coach, she helps people land, she helps immigrants and land their internships now, those key professional internships. She's developed a whole side hustle, a very lucrative side hustle as well, just because she decided, I'm going to share my journey. So in terms of her career, how exciting is that?
That's really amazing. Like I feel like how Marina was saying when LinkedIn first started for us, like I mean, no one was really using it. It was kind of just like a digital landing page of your resume, right? And
Mm.
now it's like it's almost like a whole career social network, really, like giving all these people these amazing opportunities from like the followings they're cultivating on there. And I think that's incredible. What do you think, Marina?
Mm.
I don't go on LinkedIn much anymore now that I'm kind of self-employed, but I'm going to start using it because I'm realizing that's another platform I can share my story. And yeah, I think it's also so helpful to see, especially when you're in your early 20s, it's helpful to see what other people's career paths look like because I think our parents' generation kind of you got a job and you stayed in that job. And our generation, if you want to grow within a role, you sometimes have to move companies, but we're not getting that advice from our parents. So if we're seeing other people do it successfully and thoughtfully, we realize, oh, this is helpful. And so with like your Basin's experience and how she's used her own story and experience to propel her job, it's very inspiring and encouraging.
Absolutely. And you touched on an important point there, which is uh, LinkedIn is such an incredible place to find people to connect with and have those career curiosity conversations and get to know people and understand their story and how they made that move and, how they changed countries just like you want to do or how they changed industries just like you want to do. And by having these conversations or how they got into that dream company, right? And having these
Mhm.
conversations, that's where you build real relationships. And it's like the worst time to network is when you need it, and it's like get networking, get connecting with people and build genuine relationships. And then when that role at that dream company pops up, guess who's going to think of you, right? Who's going to say, hey, heads up, this role is coming up. Would you like to send me your resume? I'll flick it through to the HR manager. So
Mhm.
that's part of, the most incredible part of LinkedIn is that for career changes, for, breakthrough roles and making those really career defining moves, these conversations can be the game changer.
Absolutely. So, when you are working with your clients, what do you think are the top 3 most important things we should communicate with our LinkedIn pages?
Yeah, great. So, number one is definitely how you can add value. It may seem a little bit ironic, but your LinkedIn profile is not all about you, it's all about them. And what I mean by them is your
Mm.
target audience, right? That dream industry, that dream company. Think about it. And so, that's when you say, I'm on a mission to help this kind of company to do this so that they can do this, or, let us know what you're wanting to do and let us know what your core strengths are, what you're known for, what makes you different. Like, I don't want to hear anything about, I'm a passionate team player with a great attention to detail. No, no, no. Like, we want to,
Mhm.
I really want to hear genuinely what makes you tick, what are you good at, how are you going to come in and add insane value. So that's number one. Number two is really your big why or what you stand for. So LinkedIn doesn't always have to feel as cold and static and boring as we think. It really is now a place where people can share their personality, their convictions, their beliefs. And so if you want to change the world in some way, if you want to make an insane level of impact in a certain area of life, like, I want to hear about that, because if I'm working for a company where I feel the same and I see that, I'm like, okay, you're my person, right? Like, we will connect, we will get on. So I want to know that about you. And then thirdly, if you have those convictions, if you have those convictions, those beliefs, something that gets you out of bed in the morning, something that you care about, I want to hear about it. Because if I'm a recruiter working in your dream company and I come across your profile and I believe what you believe, we'll instantly have that human connection. And the reaction will be like, wow, this is my kind of person. And the third thing that you really need to get across on your LinkedIn strategically is what you want next. So I work with high achievers from all around the world, and what sets them apart is they have a vision for their career and they can articulate that. They can say, what they're great at, but also what they want next out of their career, where they're going, where they're headed. It doesn't have to be a job title, but it has to have a general kind of direction. And when you're clear about what you want next and, going forward, what you hope to achieve and what kind of impact you hope to make, it's going to be a lot easier as well for recruiters or decision makers to know what to do with you and to know who to connect you with. So being able to articulate what's next is also really important.
Wow, that is insanely helpful. I'm thinking back to the last couple of times I was interviewing for jobs a couple of years ago, and I would get asked those questions and I didn't know how to answer them.
Mm.
And I didn't know that I could be so forthcoming with, well, this is who I am and what I'm doing. Because I think so much of our upbringing and training was like answering the question correctly. And so, at least for me, I remember thinking, I don't know how to answer this because I don't know what you're looking for. So
Mm.
this is insanely helpful advice, Rosie, to how to move forward. And I'm excited for our listeners to take action on that. So if you're listening and you've used Rosie's advice, please email us and let us know how it goes. We wanna share that with her. But Rosie, thank you so much for sharing this with us. Where can people find you? Because I know people are going to want to ask follow-up questions and connect.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm most active, I would say, on either LinkedIn, surprise, surprise, or Instagram. So on Instagram, it's Badass Careers. And on LinkedIn, you can find me just by searching Rosie McCarthy or Badass Careers. But if you want the full URL, it's linkedin.com/in/Rosie Career Coach. Then I also have a YouTube channel under Badass Careers where I share in-depth trainings. I actually have an entire LinkedIn playlist where you can learn how to set up your profile, how to optimize it for search, how to start networking on LinkedIn. So I have video trainings on all of these topics.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Well, we will also link all of that into our show notes too. So for anyone listening, you can just click on those on your phone or computer. Great. Well, Rosie, thank you again so much. We're so happy to have you and look forward to sharing all of the forward thinking that comes out of this. I'll go ahead and sing us out because Nicole's on mute with her toddler. So this has been another episode of the Gen 20 podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Please leave us a 5-star rating and review, and we'll see you next time. Bye.